Alright, so after taking care of all the business I had to take care of, welcome to the epic fight with the sorceress. Honestly, I don't think the sorceress fight is anywhere near as impressive as the Ripto fight is, but it comes close, and hey, it's still more of a boss fight than what Nasty Norik wound up being, so let's give credit where credit is due. The sorceress is at least a somewhat interesting boss fight, okay? Maybe not the most interesting villain, but definitely one of the more interesting boss fights, okay? So the interesting thing about the sorceress is that Agent 9 is going to shoot down a bunch of different gadgets and vehicles that you can use to deal damage to the sorceress. Mostly of the cannon firing variety, if you can believe it. After you hit her a certain amount of times, the type of gadget and vehicles that you get to use will change up throughout the battle, which keeps things interesting. She'll have two different kinds of attacks for the most part. She'll have a energy ball shockwave attack like Gulp and Scorch have, and she'll also have a homing fireball that gets more and more homing the more damage she has been dealt. So keep that in mind. Eventually you get a mobile cannon, which is cool. Aw man, why didn't that second shot hit? She also has a third attack where she'll come up close to Spyro and try to whack him with her wand directly, which usually doesn't work out too good, I gotta be honest. Bam, you just charge away from her after a while, and you'll be in pretty good shape, honestly. Oh, dang, almost got hit there. Thankfully, there are no skill points you have to worry about for defeating her without getting hit, which can be kind of finicky, I'm not gonna lie. Ooh, that fireball came pretty close to hitting me too. But yeah, it seems like you can only really get in a couple hits on her at a time with any vehicle. When she gets to slightly below half health, though, I believe that's when the most interesting vehicle starts to get spawned after a while. You gotta be very careful with her fireballs. It may not seem like they home in on you, but they do. And they home in on you a little bit more and more and more as the fight continues. But now things get interesting because now you get to use a UFO. But it's a little tricky to use because, some of the sorceress attacks home in on you, like the fireball, which if you're in the air and you're not moving as fast as you can with charging and all that, yeah, it's going to be a lot harder to get in a successful hit, And if you touch her with the UFO, it'll automatically despawn, sadly. In the original, I don't think it despawned if you touched her directly with the UFO, because honestly, that seems like something that's pretty easy to happen, all things considered. Oh man, I think she's only got a couple hits left though. Before we finish this fight though, I do want to mention another oddity with the Black Label release of Year of the Dragon. In that version, the music that played for this fight is the freaking Sunrise Spring theme. Yes, the same music that plays in Evening Lake as well. Yes, it's weird, but it is what it is. And yeah, usually you're only going to get like one or two shots from a vehicle at any given time. I don't know how she got a hit on there, and she didn't even hit me with the one. I got damage just from touching her body. That's a first. I don't know if that was even true in the original. I don't remember that at all, but this should be the last hit coming up. If I can get a shot in on her. Good lord, she is surprisingly mobile for a fat dinosaur. Alright, that takes care of the sorceress for now. And yeah, it's going to end this episode, guys. Enjoy the cutscene, and next episode we're going to begin the 100% completion by finishing off the rest of the levels in Midnight Mountain and other stuff. Do enjoy the ending, though.
Spyro, you just defeated a sorceress, rescued the dragon eggs, and restored freedom to the lost dragon worlds. What do you plan to do next, hmm? Perhaps a nice vacation in Dragon Shores, hmm?
You're a real comedian sometimes, Bentley. You know, I still have to find the rest of the dragon eggs. Plus, Hunter seems to have disappeared again, so I should go make sure he's not in more trouble. You haven't seen him, have you?
What? Me? Oh, no. If I do happen to encounter him, however, I will most certainly inform you immediately.
It's a funny thing, Spyro. I adjusted Avalar's portals to take me to the Dragon Worlds, but somehow I ended up here. Maybe my coordinate tables are out of date. Yeah, by 1,000 years. That would explain why the book was so cheap.
So now that you're done saving the world again, are you gonna visit me in Avalar?
Sure, Laura, but I still have to find the rest of the eggs, and, well, Hunter's disappeared again.
Did you say Hunter? Well, hey, I can help. I just saw him sneak off with
Him, Agent 9, isn't that a Rhinoc over in those bushes?
Rhinoc. Ooh, let me at him. You want a piece of me, Rhinoc boy? Hey, laser punk, come on now. Oh, they're hiding.
I'm sure Hunter is in good hands. I'm sure he will turn up soon.
Promise you'll come visit Avalar soon, okay?
Now, how many times have I told you not to tease that moose?
It was Billy's idea. Yeah.
Is that true, Billy? Hold that thought, Billy. Spyro, great to see ya.
Hi, Sheila. I've been looking for Hunter all day. Have you seen him?
Sorry, Spyro. Hunter made me promise not to tell you where they went.
They...
You didn't hear anything from me.
Oh, no. Oh, no. It's a sad sight, Sparks. Another noble warrior falls victim to the plague of love. Just look away. Well, I guess we'll have to find the rest of the eggs by ourselves.
Come on, Spyro, take a little break. Let's watch the show.
Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Spyro Year of the Dragon Reignited Edition. Last episode, we finished off the Sorceress. Or did we? Because there's still 2 episodes left in this Let's Play, including this one. So, before we move on, let's head deeper into Midnight Mountain. We do have a few levels we need to polish off here, but near Desert Ruins... Oh, what's this? What's Moneybags doing on the bridge now when he wasn't there before? Well, let's see what he's selling this time.
Don't worry, Spyro. I won't be needing any more of your money. Now, don't look so surprised. I found one of the dragon eggs, and I'm going to sell it for a fortune back at Avalar. Uh-oh. Why are you looking at me like that? I've got to be going now. Toodles!
So, as a much-needed comeback, ever since Moneybags started charging you gems in Spyro 2 and Spyro 3, you get to chase him like the thief he is and get every single gem back from him. I'm going to enjoy this for as long as I possibly can, Bear!
Drat! Double drat! Drat! I never knew dragons were so fast. That's it. I give up. I'm retiring to Spooky Swamp to become a haiku poet.
So you get a secret 6th egg here in Midnight Mountain by chasing down Moneybags, but you also get back all of the gems that you have given to Moneybags up until this point. Now, it is worth mentioning that if you have not defeated the sorceress yet, then Moneybags will show up in Crystal Islands and in Desert Ruins. At any rate, though, between Crystal Islands and Desert Ruins, I recommend going to Desert Ruins first. Why? No particular reason, but it is a really nice level. Not one of my favorites, but it is one I look forward to revisiting whenever I play this game.
Hello, you must be Spyro. I've heard a lot of people talking about all the things you've done for them. Do you think you could help find my girlfriend Tara? She went off to raid the tomb of the stone golem, but I haven't seen her since. I'd go look inside the tomb myself, but, you know, there's all these scorpions.
So, fun fact, in the original Year of the Dragon, Gus over there looked exactly like the gem cutters from Glimmer in Spyro 2. Like, it was basically a model rip, more or less, which is kind of funny to think about, but, I mean, it makes sense, you know, they are the same animal species, just not the same NPC species, if that makes any sense at all. But at any rate, welcome to Desert Ruins proper. I think this is actually the second level in the listing for Midnight Mountain in your guidebook or atlas, but I feel like doing this one for the first proper level of this episode is appropriate. And you will see why later in the level. For now, though, enjoy all this sweet platforming with Spyro, because it may not last forever. And by this point, I've already completed all of the Sparks levels, so Sparks is basically at his max efficiency. By this point, he will have an extra hit point, he will have the ability to pick up gems farther away, and upon completing Bugbot Factory in particular, Sparks gains the ability to destroy containers too. Yes, even the metal vases, which kind of hard to believe that a small dragonfly like him can break metal vases, but there it is. But he can't break these head bash chests, don't you know, because that would just be too OP, I would think. There, though, yeah, there are these enemies that breathe fire on metal flooring, and when they do that, yeah, you might want to jump for joy. And by jump for joy, I mean jump for your gosh darn survival, friend. But I really like the platforming in Desert Ruins, and that's why it's a level that I usually look forward to whenever I come back to Year of the Dragon. You know, it's a nice, simple level. Kind of takes you back to the old days, because now that I think about it, the aesthetics of this level vaguely remind me of the Peacekeepers from the original Spyro. Just vaguely, though, because all this green ooze reminds me more of other kinds of levels, like maybe a little bit of Shady Oasis from Spyro 2, which had a lot of that green ooze laying around. I think Scorch in the original Spyro 2, not the boss, the level. Good lord, I don't know why they thought it would be a good idea to name a boss after a level in Spyro 2. Well, they probably expect a lot of people to not have played the other Spyro games, and Year of the Dragon winds up being their first Spyro game. But still, I mean, what else can you name a flying bat-like enemy that uses fire as its primary element of attack? I guess there's only so many things you can name a bat like that. I don't know. I don't know what else to tell you, man. But anyway, that is where the key is, and I think I want to hold on to the key for a while, to be honest. Gliding to this hand is usually pretty tough. I'm glad I got that first try. I don't always do it, though, and I wind up falling into the green ooze below. But can we make it to that area over there? Looks like a Animal Buddy sub-area, huh? Who's it gonna be? Why, it's Sheila the Kangaroo, mate! Man, we haven't seen her since Spooky Swamp. That was like, what? 3 episodes ago? Dang, dude. Before I go, there's something I wanted to mention in Lost Fleet, but because of all the shenanigans that went on during that level, I didn't have a chance to mention it, but in Reignited Spyro the Year of the Dragon and the Greatest Hits version of the PS1 version, wow, I'm saying version a lot, but anyway, the song for Lost Fleet is sort of a remix of Sheila's theme, but in the original Black Label Year of the Dragon, the music used for Lost Fleet is actually the music from the secret final level, which I don't want to spoil ahead of time.
haven't seen you in a while. I'm just off for a bit of a walkabout right now. You know, sometimes you just long for the simple, old-fashioned pleasures of yesteryear, don't you?
Interesting dialogue considering this game originally came out in the year 2000. I guess by that point in history, in gaming history, 2D sprite-based games were starting to become a distant memory for some people, and 3D games, for as primitive as they look now in retrospect, were the future. And, you know, 3D platformers and 3D gaming in general and all that. But here we have a section with Sheila the Kangaroo that's actually completely in 2D. Not even 2.5D, because you can't move up and down. You can only move left and right. It's only 3D in the sense of the graphics, which is usually what 2.5D means. But some games like Crash Bandicoot might bend the rules a little bit, if you know what I mean. But yeah, we have a nice little throwback to 2D games with this last Sheila section, and I guess I can't think of a better way to send off a simple but charming character like Sheila the Kangaroo, you know? And since this is going to be the last time we see her in this Let's Play, I do want to say, I've always liked Sheila the Kangaroo's gameplay. Even in the original Year of the Dragon, I always thought her jumping-based gameplay reminded me a lot of Mario. And I played a lot of Mario when I was a kid. I still do. Nowadays I play more the 3D games rather than the 2D games, which were pretty much all there were until Mario 64 came out in 1996. So, yeah, no. That's just what we had to work with back in the day. And I was born in 91, so what was I going to do for the 5 years before Mario 64 came out? That's right, I played 2D Mario games, man. So, I don't remember the throwback hitting me when I first did this section on my first playthrough, because I think, you know, all those childhood games I played kind of blend together. In retrospect, though, yeah, every time I come back to this, I'm like, wow, they actually did a throwback all the way back in 2000. It's fun to think about. And hold up. Alright. Open the treasure chest so we don't have to worry about this later on in the level. I do want to mention, since I didn't have the chance to mention it in the last episode, but the main levels in Midnight Mountain will have 700 gems to collect, up from the 600 in Evening Lake, which is to say, a lot of stinking gems. And we're back where we were. Anyway, no, yeah. Yeah, Sheila's sub-area was a nice little breath of fresh air because it's really pretty easy. It's not dead, not brain dead easy, because those enemies can get you when you least expect it, but yeah, compared to everything else in Desert Ruins, it's a pretty nice change of pace. All these scorpion enemies can be pretty tricky. The big ones will shoot fire at you, and the small ones will shoot a stinger at you, because that makes sense. And, you know, the metal enemies, I think they're supposed to be robots, maybe? But that would be weird considering this is supposed to be a desert level. They're probably like revived relics or something like that, if I had to guess. But, oh, we can head bash the scorpions, that's cool. Here's a section that reminds me of the volcano from Magma Cone in Spyro 2. So basically, this metal enemy is going to be up at the top, constantly lighting fire to those metal ladders. So, you know, this scorpion is just utterly destroying me. I was going to do the sub-area, but I think it'd be smart to come out here and try to find some fodder. And we're also going to go ahead and finish the main objective.
Well, look at you, showing up here to raid the tomb after I've done all the hard work. I've spent all day pressing switches and shoving boxes around, and you just waltz in here expecting to claim the treasure? Well, you might as well have it. It's only a lousy egg anyway.
Her clothing and her attire look strikingly familiar. And her name being Tara, maybe her last name is Croft by some chance? Tara Croft? Well, I wouldn't be surprised, you know. She's obviously a reference to Lara Croft, you know, the main character of the Tomb Raider series, which made it start on the PS1, same as Crash and Spyro. Okay, let me see if there's gems in here. Okay, there's not. I'm going to try and collect some fodder, and I'm going to jump cut through that and come back to this exit portal, okay? Yeah, sadly there weren't that many lizards to find, but this should be more than enough for the sub-area. The sub-area isn't particularly dangerous, but it can be annoying if you're not careful. Alright, we're going to climb to the top of the ladders and go over here. And there's the entrance to sub-area, but we're going to have to glide over here because we need to get a gem and an extra life butterfly that's going to bring Sparks to full health. So I didn't need to grind fodder at all. Alright, let's just dive right here with a head bash because why not? And head in, and it's an underwater sub-area. But thankfully, this is nowhere near as annoying as the subs in Lost Fleet. Actually, it's kind of interesting. So, do you by chance remember the manta ray from Aquaria Towers in Spyro 2? No? Yes? Maybe so? Well, they bring it back. In a much different context, though. So I'm going to collect some gems around here, and then we're going to track down Hunter, I believe. Because, yeah, he's back in his underwater attire, but thankfully he doesn't have any orbs hidden in his flippers. And I doubt he can fit a dragon egg in there. Can he?
I've been training my new pet manta ray to carry the latest technology. Super high impact underwater missile launchers. Wanna ride them and try blasting some sharks? Just watch out for the shark riders. They're carrying the latest JX5 underwater tracking ammunition.
Alright, so you got an attack button, of course. You got turbo. The manta ray controls a lot like Hunter's vehicle from Mushroom Speedway, actually. Now I'm thinking about it, but you're going to need the manta ray's help to destroy all of the metal containers here so you can get all the gems. But also you're going to need the manta ray's help to destroy all of the seaweed. The seaweed that's all lit up and special. Because you get a skill point for that. You also got a skill point for defeating all of the seaweed in Aquaria Towers and Spyro 2 as well. So it's kind of funny that in retrospect, Insomniac rehashed a skill point, but again, they probably assumed that there would be a lot of people that would play Spyro 3 without playing Spyro 2. Hence why they didn't call Year of the Dragon Spyro 3. It would make a lot more people motivated to play the game if there wasn't a number attached to it. You may not believe it, but it's true. If people see that a game is numbered by a certain number, like 3 for example, they're going to assume, well, I probably need to play the other 2 games beforehand, which for something like an RPG series or a story-heavy series in general makes sense, but something like Crash or Spyro, you really don't have to play the older games before you play the newer ones. And if you're not invested in story at all, well, you're just going to get nothing but gameplay improvements for the most part, so, you know. But now that we have the Reignited Trilogy and the Insane Trilogy just bundling all of the games together in one happy package, there isn't really much of a point in recommending one over the other. You just play whatever games you want, you know? And there's the skill point. I think this mission was nerfed a little bit from the original. Except if you get hit once, you gotta start the mission all over again, sadly, but I think it memorizes, like, gems. You don't have to recollect any gems. I got all the gems, so I'm just going to jump cut until I get the egg, okay?
Nice shooting, comrade. Where'd you learn to aim like that? Oh, by the way, Bianca wanted me to give you this egg. She says she accidentally turned it into a woolly mammoth for 5 minutes, but it should still be okay.
I'll gladly take that over another second-hand flipper object, Hunter. Alright, so that should be the last dragon egg for Desert Ruins. It is. We're up to 130 out of 149. We're getting pretty close. But that's going to 100% complete Desert Ruins. We're going to head back to Midnight Mountain and we're going to go on to Crystal Island.
Spyro, don't tell anyone, but we've stolen some magic from the sorceress. We're hiding here whilst we practice using it. Unfortunately, we've had a bit of an accident and turned everything into crystal, and it seems to have aggravated the indigenous creatures.
Alright, so welcome to Crystal Islands. I think this level is really cool, honestly. But I'm fixing to throw down another fun yeah, Spyro PS1 Black Label, or Spyro You're the Dragon PS1 Black Label trivia fact for you. Take a wild guess as to what music track this level had in the Black Label version of Year of the Dragon. Go ahead, I'll give you some time to think about it. I will give you a hint though, you saw an octopus enemy in the water here, which the last time we saw one of them was in Seashell Shore. That's right. In the Black Label version, they use the music from Seashell Shore. God, I thought I wouldn't have to say that level name again the rest of this Let's Play, but yeah, that's the music they went with for Crystal Islands in the original. But you know what? It was so funky that it never really bothered me back in the day. But I think the actual Crystal Islands music theme is really chill and laid back, honestly, and I think it's more fitting than the Seashell Shore song, and hopefully that's the last time I have to say that level name, because I already mentioned the trivia, so we're just gonna move on, okay? So yeah, Crystal Islands is another magical kind of level, and now that I think about it, there was a level in the original Spyro called Crystal Flight. So, I mean, it seems like a lot of levels in Year of the Dragon are at least vaguely reminiscent of a Spyro 1 or a Spyro 2 level. And I find that it more often than not, it usually favors the original over the second one. Which makes sense, because when Insomniac was working on Year of the Dragon, they were 2 years apart from the first game, but only a year apart from Spyro 2.
Would you like to see a magic trick? Watch carefully. As you can see, there is nothing up my left sleeve and nothing up my right sleeve. But now, with a wave of my hands and the magic word, Alakazam!
So the whole goal of this level is to talk to a bunch of wizards to eventually make it to the end and, you know, get all the dragon eggs, basically. Because these guys are using magic they, siphoned off, I guess you could say, from the sorceress, which, if you do this level before the sorceress fight, it makes a little bit of sense. But if you do this after the sorceress fight, it takes on a whole different context, which makes just as much sense, if not potentially more sense. And here we have a little bit of annoying within-level backtracking. You have to glide down to this egg, and then you have to go all the way back around, which takes a little bit, but I'm not going to jump cut past it because it's worth mentioning that whenever you talk to a wizard and they summon some gem platforms, you can talk to them again, and they'll regenerate the platforms.
You want to see the trick again? Well, alright. But I want you to know this isn't as easy as it looks. Alakazam!
Oh, I'm sure it's not. By the way, I love hearing the name of my favorite Pokemon every time I talk to these guys. They say Alakazam. Dude, that's my #1 Pokemon. How did you know? Well, to be fair, usually it was actually Kadabra, and fun fact, Abracadabra and Alakazam are named after commonly used magic words, so, you know. You can talk to this wizard to activate a swirly over there, but it's advised to take care of the enemies and the gems around this little lake area beforehand. I gotta say, the aesthetics here for Reignited Crystal Islands never looked better. But it looks pretty good by PS1 standards as well. The Spyro and Crash PS1 games in general looked really good for PS1 standards. Maybe not so much the original Crash, but definitely the Crash sequels and all of the Spyro games as far as I'm concerned. And I gotta say, now that Sparks is at max power, being able to break containers and collecting gems from a further distance, it's really making the completionist part of this playthrough a lot smoother.
All this magic is just misdirection, you know? Which is why I'm going to start that whirlwind over there. Abracadabra!
So the NPC calls it a twister or something like that, or a whirlwind. So I've heard people call them swirlies, and I think I kind of like calling them swirlies too, just because, you know. I think they call them that in the game that shouldn't be named, but Spyro Enter the Dragonfly, I believe there's an NPC that calls them swirlies. I could be mistaken, but yikes, I can't believe I mentioned Enter the Dragonfly in a non-Enter the Dragonfly Let's Play, but I guess it was inevitable. And if you're expecting me to do a Let's Play of Enter the Dragonfly, boy, have I got some bad news for you. it ain't gonna happen. At least, not a let's play of the full game, because I would probably run out of things to say after the first or second main level. But the game is so glitchy, thankfully, that it is possible to literally just go straight to the final boss. So who knows? Maybe I'll find out how to work it into a format like this in the future, huh?
Well, I suppose I could show you my new trick. As long as you promise not to tell the great Zamboni, he steals all my best work. Alakazam!
There's that Pokemon name again. I just can't get enough of that. Although, I guess Alakazam's older brother Mewtwo is technically superior, but not aesthetically pleasing. I've never really used Mewtwo all that much back in the day. Unlike Kadabra and Alakazam, who were basically my savior in the original Pokemon Red and Blue playthroughs. We're gonna go ahead and get the Dragonite from this guy before we do anything else. Actually, before we do that, let's knock out this sub-area because, well, this sub-area is another slide, like that slide that we saw in Haunted Tomb in the last episode, but it's actually larger and is a little bit more generous with the spacing, although it is a little bit longer. So what I'm going to do, we're going to see if I can do a first pass of the slide with commentary until I get to the Dragon Egg, but if I miss any gems, I'm just going to get the gems off screen because you don't need to see me go through the slide, like, I don't know how many times, but yeah, this slide is a lot easier than the one in Haunted Tomb. It's really weird that they have a slide in Crystal Islands and Haunted Tomb almost back to back. Because I think Haunted Tomb is the level listed after Desert Ruins, and I think Crystal Islands is listed first. So I guess the developers expected you to do Crystal Islands, then Desert Ruins, and then Haunted Tomb, which not quite back to back for the slides, but still. But yeah, they at least nerfed the slide a little bit, but the one in Haunted Tomb still has that really sharp turn that makes it really hard to manage. Not gonna lie. But, hard from being the worst challenge in the trilogy, or even in Year of the Dragon in general.
Here, you can have this. I was going to use it in a trick, but my magic, it just keeps bouncing off.
Alright, this should be, I think it's the 4th Dragon Egg, because we still got one more to get in the main area, and we got one in a sub-area, at least. But we're gonna glide over here. Looks like we got another treasure chest that requires a key. Oh, how pesky. Oh, look, there's one of those speed-up stars from the speedways in Your Dragon, the races. I wonder what, ooh, Superfly power-up. And what's this? A thief plane? All the way from Nasty's loot in the original Spyro? And you said this game wasn't pandering to the Spyro 1 fans. I'll believe it when I see it, comment section. But there's actually a lot more you can do besides chase down this thief with the Superfly power-up. We're actually going to be exploring the main area a good bit more. And also, it is worth mentioning that the Thief Plane is nerfed in terms of its speed here in Reignited. And it's for the better, you know? Oh, and we also have Bentley's final area, but I think we'll try and put that off to be like the last thing we do in Crystal Islands. You know, I do have some parting words of wisdom for our educated Yeti friend, you see. Yes, Bartadash and all that. What? Strange that he didn't really talk that way in the original or in the remake. He has more of a Cockney accent here in Reignited, but his voice in the original was the same voice actor as Moneybags, but, you know, obviously has to be a slightly different performance. Don't you know? Come up here for the key for the treasure chest. Very important if you forget to do it. It can be pretty pesky. Just remember, whenever you get a Dragon Egg, you lose all of your current power-up juice. Sad to say. And we're back. Not too terrible of a jump cut there. It is worth noting that once you collect the last, well, not the last, but the main Dragon Egg in this level, all of the magic tricks that the wizards do will be permanently activated. You don't have to reactivate them by talking to the NPC again. Oh wait, We still got some gems laying around. Oh, I remember now. Yeah, we need to go to the top of the area that we were just at, because I think there's some stuff up there. It should only be gems, though. Yeah, over here to the top. Oh, I guess it's just one gem. That's chill. Alright, let's fly back over to Bentley. Thankfully, we don't lose our power-up juice since there wasn't a dragon egg up there. Sparks point to Bentley. Yes, good.
Good evening, Spyro. The amazing Rendini is about to put on a display of prestidigitation. I've heard it's quite impressive, so I'm going to watch the show.
You know, I feel like Bentley gets the shaft in Year of the Dragon because, like, he gets his one level where you can play with his main gameplay. He has the Bamboo Terrace section, which gives us more of his gameplay, but it's rather short. And then we have this section, his final section. Well, it might be the final section you do, or maybe it's the backtracking that'll be the final section. And then for Frozen Altars, he just gets the Yeti boxing, so you don't get to play as much of Bentley as the other characters, I feel, which is a shame, you know. Sheila doesn't really have any gimmick levels other than the one we did in Desert Ruins, but you're still, like, getting to play with her moveset and everything, you know what I mean? And Agent 9, even though you get him so late in the game, he gets plenty of exposure, and his gameplay is varied, but at the end of the day, you're still pew 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 shooting your laser and all that stuff, you know?
I am afraid my magic show seems to have overexcited them all. All they need is a good bonker on the head to calm them down. And you look like just the Yeti to help.
Before I do this mission, I'm actually going to have to be silent because this is one of those missions that give you a pretty tight time limit and you got to defeat moles in a rather fast amount of time. Plus, I don't think I've had a good opportunity to let you people listen to Bentley's theme, which sounds really great. But on the other hand, you could probably interpret all those grunts and whatnot in a very promiscuous fashion, as Bentley would probably put it. So, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and do this mission without commentary, guys, right?
A light tap on the head should sort them out. But be careful, my friends are trying to burrow after them. Ow. Look, one of my friends dug this up whilst chasing the moles.
I think this baby dragon sells propane and propane accessories. That's a clean burning hell, I tell you what. Damn it, Bobby! I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Every freaking time I get that egg now, I just think of King of the Hill. Didn't we just get a baby dragon called Peggy not too long ago? I think back in Spooky Swamp. But yeah, this mission where you do you have to knock out the moles, it was really hard in the original. But in the original, you were forced to do a top-down camera perspective, and I thought that made it easier, but the more I think about it, I think this camera angle actually works out better. Well, don't worry, we weren't going to send off Sergeant Bird with Charmed Ridge. God, no. What kind of a send-off mission is that for Sergeant James Bird, you know, to end on? To go on a date with his one true love, right? Come on. For some reason, there is no dialogue before you come in here, though. Not sure if they cut that out, but anyway, welcome to the Tiki Lodge, son. Basically, you want to reunite the Tiki heads with the Tiki bodies, but there's a skill point here, and to get the skill point, you need to collect all of the Tiki heads first, before you put them on the bodies, and assemble all 5 heads to be near one another. Which is kind of weird, but I guess I don't really see what the skill is in there. It just kind of like unnecessarily pads out this mission. There's also these toucan enemies, which for some very bizarre reason will magically regenerate. Like, magically. I'm not even kidding. Alright? But you can push the square button to drop the heads down on the floor. Same as the bombs, funnily enough. So, no worries there. But, of course, you have a lot of fire to deal with, so it's probably not the worst idea in the world to put off this mission until after you get the extra hit point from Starfish Reef. Because, hey, you never know. It might just help out. And I remember one time when I was doing this mission here in Reignited, I think it was my first playthrough on PS4, there was a glitch somewhere around here where I just started flying and all of a sudden the camera angle just started looking downward and Sergeant Bird would fall into the lava like a rock. And I never understood the logic behind that glitch, you know? I mean, it wasn't really a game breaker or anything, because it doesn't really last very long, thankfully. But it's worth noting, because, you're just going to be flying in this random side mission, and all of a sudden you're going to start falling like a rock with the camera, and you're like, well, this was probably a mistake, and I wouldn't blame you. To be honest, folk, I wouldn't blame you. But, let's see, I think there's a dragon egg besides the main objective one, but let's wait for the fire to behave as it were. Shoot the missiles at the toucans, which totally don't look like Toucan Sam, the mascot for Fruit Loops. Gather all the heads, get the skull point, let them do their little dance. Oh, they finished their little dance, and I get to get one of them back in my clutches. Alright. When you get the heads on the body, you don't really have to push the square button. You just, if you touch it, it usually connects at any rate. But yeah, thankfully you start the mission with one of the heads at the start, so you really only have to track down 4 of 5 heads. So that's pretty cool. And we're just gonna get these 2 and get the last remaining bodies. This one is dangerously guarded by those 2 toucans. Good lord. Maybe these guys are made of Fruit Loops, because you gotta follow your nose wherever it goes. I used to be really crazy in the Fruit Loops, not gonna lie.
I'm playing a game of hide and seek with my friends. If I can't find where they've hidden their heads, they won't let me join the Tiki Lodge. Help me put them back together and I'll make you an honorary member. Take this egg as a sign of your honorary membership to the lodge.
Yeah, it seems like this section in general is actually pretty glitchy. I think I made the right call to put off this mission until towards the end of the game. Wow. Looks like I blew up the wall that was hiding this egg, too. Luna! That's a pretty name for a baby dragon. Not really a special animation in particular, but still, pretty name for a baby dragon. Well, it was nice getting to see off Sergeant Bird one last time. Final thoughts on Sergeant Bird. His gameplay is so much better reignited. He was so slow in the original game, and that was the only thing I didn't like about this guy. Because again, personality, they knocked that out of the park. He was so slow in the original game, guys, and the missiles were generally pretty good, but they weren't perfect. Reignited though, the missiles are like 99% accurate now, and he is so much faster moving on the ground and in the air, it's not even funny. So yeah, Sergeant Bird went from being a tolerable character to a fun character. It's pretty nice that happened that way. Alright, so before you go into Agent 9's sub-area, you should probably have around 425 gems, which is not the worst number to end on in the world, but without further ado, we're going to end Episode 9 with an Agent 9 segment. Kind of funny how that worked out.
Hey, Spyro. I'm helping a kid named Handel recover some secret rocket plans the sorceress stole. You know I'm always ready to kick some Rhinoc booty.
That he is. So, for this section of Fireworks Factory, this is really interesting. The whole thing is going to be in first person, but like gameplay-wise, it's, at least here in Reignited, it's pretty much the same.
Hi, Agent 9. Behind those doors are some pretty scary ninjas. I bet you could use your sharpshooter skills to take them out. Remember, press the attack button to shoot, and use the roll left and roll right buttons to dodge left and right.
Yeah, don't forget, you can still strafe left and right. So, in the context of 1999, when this game was in development originally for the PlayStation with Insomniac, I think the direct inspiration for this section is Doom, because that was like the most popular first-person shooter back in the day. Oh, but there is a skill point in this section, and it's a even more beneficial skill point than usual. Let's knock out these Rhinox real quick, because if not, they're probably going to drive me a little crazy. So there are a lot of gems to collect here in this section, actually. And I find this section pretty fun, because I don't usually like first-person games, unless it's Metroid Prime, in which case I love Metroid Prime dearly, the original game, and to a lesser extent its sequels, but this section I do think is really fun. It's a change of pace without completely contradicting Agent 9's gameplay. Basically the polar opposite of the Yeti boxing with Bentley, I would say, but hey, at least they made the Yeti boxing a lot less painful here in Reignited. I don't know, Yeti boxing can almost be pretty fun now, that you can really, I mean really cheese the guy. So, yeah, but this doesn't mean that this section for Agent 9 isn't challenging, because it can be. Oh, believe me, it can. But you get a skill point by shooting that, and you get his secret laser, which is really stinking fast, and you get a lot of ammo. But it doesn't really do any more damage, it's just really rapid fire, which works out just fine for us. Just to remind you, here in Reignited, sometimes the gems won't be collectible by sparks for whatever reason. So, make sure you walk over the gems just to be doubly sure that you collect the gems. Yeah. So we're gonna go through here. Basically, you get 2 dragon eggs for this mission. You get one for getting it to the end the first time, and then you get another one by basically going through it in reverse. But like, all of the enemies and objects are regenerated for the most part, so yeah, that's just kind of what you gotta deal with there. When your power-up that you get from the skill point runs out, you just revert back to your regular ammunition, which still functions really good, don't get me wrong, but it's not as fast as the super lasers, so best thing to try and do is to try and conserve it. You get 500 bullets, so try to not use more than 250 during the first pass, and then, have about 250 for the second pass. I'm gonna say try, but that doesn't mean it's gonna work out that way, but we can only do the best we can do, you know what I mean? But yeah, collecting all the gems and beating all the enemies, the laser. I will say, the laser power makes this even more fun. Also, way easier to cheese, let me tell you. But this is still, like, the best instance of backtracking in a Spyro game, because you're doing something different and fun, coming back to a level. This is backtracking done right. I don't support backtracking at all, but if you're gonna have backtracking and it's like this, well, that's, the better of 2 evils, more or less, so it's cool. It's whatever. I just hope that there are some gems that I omitted earlier that hopefully won't despawn for whatever reason. And it's really good that you don't have a time limit, even though that cutscene there kind of implies there should be a time limit. But nah, they're kind enough not to force a time limit on you, which is really chill. But this mission that isn't really all that chill, to be honest. You gotta really be on your toes, because the Rhinox will start spawning in at crazy rates. Look at this. They're like all over the place, man. Because, yeah, there's a lot of boxes. A lot of boxes that spawn Ninja Rhinox, as it were. I think only the boxes that spawn the ninjas give gems at this point. Like, I'm killing all these ninjas, and I'm not really getting any gems for it. Which is is kind of crazy, to be honest. The extra hit point you earn by doing Starfish Reef also applies to this section. Normally, your max HP is 75, I believe, but with the extra hit point, it becomes 100. So you get 4 hits. You get to 0 HP or 1 HP, I think, and then your last hit is, well, it should be obvious. Be very careful. You know, it's very easy to get swarmed by the Rhinox here. I don't think it's as easy to get swarmed here as it was in the original with the slightly more stiff controls, but it still happens. You know, I've lost runs of this because I got utterly swarmed by Ninja Rhinox, man. It's not a very pretty thing, let me tell you that up front. Okay, I guess there weren't gems here after all. Ooh, boy. We got a purple gem back again, and you can't really use the Sparks Treasure Finder because of the perspective that you're in, sadly, so you really are just gonna kind of have to wing it for the most part. And I find that the 500 bullets that you get with the power-up, really, you get a lot of mileage out of it. You should be able to have it for the entire mission, honestly. But I mean, if you start spamming it like I did there, then it's a lot less likely you'll retain it, as it were. But, should only be 3 more purple gems, right? Oh god. Alright, we get that crate. We're good. Get the gems. Should be 2 more purple gems. Around here somewhere. Has to be at the end. Maybe it's like right at this final section. Oh, wouldn't you know it? Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Jump. Holy cow. Holy cow. I told you. You can go from 0 to 100 just like that. Okay. Got all the gems. We're fixing to get the last dragon egg. We're good. We're good.
Thanks for rescuing me. You'd better look after this egg before the Rhinox try to blow that up too.
Oh boy, Donovan. It's a pretty cool baby dragon name. Yeah, sure enough. I like the glasses, but... Whew, boy. We're finishing this episode with 140 dragon eggs and a heck of a lot of gems. Alright guys, join me next time as we finish off the epic Spyro Year of the Dragon by doing Dino Mines, Harbor Speedway, and the final secret level that not only will cap off Year of the Dragon, but will cap off the entire Spyro Trilogy Let's Play series.